Ms. Van Ornum, how do I say this politically correctly? I won't. Look, we sit up here for free, and I always tell the people that work for me, when you dump your problems in my lap, you have given up your right to solve the problem your way, and now you'll solve the problem my way, and that's usually quick and decisive, not always popular. Ms. Van Ornum, the only thing I hear about your school now is this: excellence. And the way you handle your site and manage your site and make it your business and make the students of your school and their futures your #1 priority without drama. Congratulations to you. Can everybody give her a hand, please? Thank you. When I got on this board, my campaign promise was reduce dependence on out-of-boundary charters, restore focus on local students, and restore the good name of this district in the greater educational marketplace. When I was hitting this board, Newhall School District was suing us. Now I'm stealing Mark Winger's employees. Welcome aboard. You have made my last campaign promise real, sir. Hey, do you rent those kids for parties? So you know, they just sit there. They're perfect. And don't listen to anything she says. All right, I'm done. Thank you. Welcome. Okay, a couple things. I brought this up the last time. Kelly Jensen, former board member, on the front page of the Antelope Valley Press for the Excellence in Curriculum Award. She won, recognized by the Los Angeles County Office of Education. There's a hole in our board now. I've said that before. I would like to see this in our local paper. That would be really killer. Veterans, I want to say something about veterans. A lot of the veterans that were around when I was a kid, they were drafted. They were yanked up out of their life, and there were wars going on, and war was different. You didn't play a video game and blow a bunch of people up from the safety of your couch back then. There were people storming beaches where there were thousands and thousands of people being shot down, lives interrupted. The fact that Ms. Van Ornum's students can recognize, I waited for them to leave, this is sensitive, can recognize that there are people out there whose lives have been changed, missing limbs, died, came home, never talked about the horrors that they live every night. The fact that the kids stood up there and actually related something meaningful. Lester, thank you for your service in the United States Marine Corps. My pleasure. Business-wise, I attended the Los Angeles County School Trustees Association meeting on February 27th. The topic was using science to improve reading proficiency, which was kind of a kind of a take and a realization that dyslexia is increasing, and learning rote words, rote memory and stuff doesn't help those people. So there's a broader look at some of the things could be implemented into reading proficiency programs that make it less humiliating for people that have an inherent problem that they can't help. I was coerced into attending the California State Board of Education meeting this morning. I have a couple of things I want to talk about. One of them was the state dashboard. What's really, really big, the chairperson there made a comment about attendance and how drastically attendance, chronic absenteeism, which affects you're the new Mr. Money, by the way, Mr. Money. We can get grants. We're still short on our ADA to be self-sufficient. They told you that, right? You knew that, right? You don't watch my videos on TV, right? Okay. So, but in all seriousness, if you can't get your kids to school, there's no money coming in. And then the way it's painted, the way I saw it, is the state does the dashboard. So every administrator in the world except this one runs out and goes, well, we're not as bad as those people over there, or you know, you massage the numbers to make it look like you're better than the next loser, right? And what I try to tell people is, look, we have kids in this district that want to come to school. So we have some success, and that success may be lower or higher than other people. But use the success you have, and this sounds really altruistic and naive, but use the success you have to get the other kids to come to school. So I actually made a comment, I'll read it into the record. I said this to the State Board of Education. I am Ken Pfalzgraf, board member, Acton, Agua, Dulce Unified School District, which is a small rural district in North Los Angeles County. Our district remains under the competent direction of Dr. Eric Sahaki, and you owe me $50. I want to speak out this morning to let you know about how hearing the news of challenges at the state level can be seen by some as a means to compare LEA or even county-wide trends and characterize that performance as, well, we're not as bad as anyone else. Unfortunately, percentage achievement bar comparisons exclude success at the individual student level. The captain obvious takeaway from the presentation we heard from the staff there is that all LEAs and counties have some level of success, which is an indicator that should be celebrated and is seen as a relevant model for success in working to make the data grow on the desired side of the graph, which that's what makes it relevant to the individual student. Tonight at the board meeting, that's here right now, I will share my altruistic take on this part of the CDE meeting today and ask staff to compare our LEA numbers against the state trend and to celebrate the successes that make our district unique in the statewide data, and to take those successes to work on other parts of the pie chart. I will take the opportunity to thank our local staff, that's you all, for presenting data in an accurate manner to the state, and then I said, which is the most politically correct way I can put that. So to translate that into Ken language, there are big districts out there that are presenting fictitious data to gain larger cuts of financing. That's called fraud, taxpayer fund misappropriation. So I just said I thanked everybody for not doing that here. And I thank the board and their staff at the state level for their work on behalf of the futures of students that attend our district here in Acton, Agua Dulce Unified School District. The next thing was they had an item, consideration of requests for determination of funding as required for non-classroom based charter schools. I'll be talking about that when it comes to the second interim budget approval tonight. But the California Teachers Association stood up and reminded everyone that this is a danger zone when it comes to charters like A3 and Valiant, and I think we're all very familiar with those people. So at the end of the day, I'll be talking about that a little bit. Finally, thank you for everyone. I have made some comments. I've become a celebrity in my discussions on YouTube about the 1-inch blizzard of 23 that we had here that shut down the whole world. I had 3 or 4. I grew up in Wisconsin. It was kind of a farce. But here's what I would hope would happen. There are people in this district that work for this district, are ready to go to work every morning, and sometimes things happen. And when we apply for waivers for things like snowstorms and fires and things like that, it would be my hope that the staff that's ready and able to go to work, that they're all made whole. The chair of the commission, Chair Darling Hamilton is her name, she had an idea that sometimes these disasters and pandemics and fires and floods and snowstorms are getting so bad and so frequent that that's actually the cause of why our kids aren't being educated and missing school and attending poorly. So at the state level, you have people who are all still wearing masks in the room, thinking that maybe we should be ready to fire up virtual learning at any moment. And I personally am not a supporter of that. I don't mind kids riding sleds once in their life, but we do need to get them to school and address the issue of encourage encouraging kids through our social media. President Taxoni had a couple of initiatives this year that make our district, if you just look at it, it's a great place to be. But I'm not an advocate of flipping kids back and forth between seeing their friends every morning and turning the computer on and putting our staff, especially our teaching staff, through that. So give the good word, encourage your neighbors, get your kids to school. He needs your money. This is for dependable cooling and heating.
Correct.
Did we get an estimate from undependable cooling and heating?
That's in the pipeline. No, we didn't.
Okay, remember that I asked most of these questions, but I like this to go into public record. When I joined the board, there was a $4.5 million a year charter revenue dependency. The court took care of that. Judge Lancelot Link down in San Diego had us paying back $600 and some thousand. That party was over. Anybody that does any kind of business. To comment to Lester and I know each other from the past. I run a division of City of Beverly Hills. Lester is a major vendor through companies that service cities and municipalities and governmental agencies that are the highest caliber. And our jobs are outside the comedy. When it comes time to run things, we run things for a very demanding clientele. So I appreciate your look on things, Lester. Let me tell you why I'm here. I'm not a classified staff. I'm a terrible teacher. I'm very impatient. I'm not a principal. I'm not a financial guy. I don't tell the superintendent what to do. I am here to make sure that nothing gets in the way of the funding and the compliances that we have that threaten the students that attend my schools in my towns. That's why I'm here. No one should be confused about that. So people look at our reserve and they say, whoa, you got all kinds of money. And I tell people, look, if I save up a bunch of money and then start freaking out and buying whatever I want to buy and don't stay in line with my budget and my paycheck, and I start digging into the bank account, that's called deficit spending. And in the world in which we have to answer to LACO, which is the County Office of Education, they look at things. It's like Lester will bring up things about forecasted cost. Is this going to go through the people? I don't want to speak for you, but does this go through the people above us that do the forecast? We don't just do what we do and then nobody's watching us. I mean, LACO has tight controls over what we do. But when you start spending money on things out of your reserve, you can have the biggest reserve, but if you're augmenting your regular expenditures that aren't capital improvement projects or whatever, LACO comes in and starts giving you additional oversight. And with additional oversight comes additional control. And when you lose control to LACO, and LACO loses control to the state, we aren't able to look at the kids that go to our schools and determine who wants to be an iron worker, who wants to be an electrician, who's headed to college, who's going to go to the, I should throw this out there, the local career technical academy that's going to bring in people that are, you know, tired of doing math over wherever they're at and want to have an apprenticeship program staring them in the face. But that's why I'm here. This team has brought in more than $5 million for the next 5 years, and that replaces the charter revenue that wasn't sustainable, and no one's going to come back unless you're not spending the money. And again, everybody upstairs, if the joke in government is, if you're going to get $1, they're going to charge you $3 to show them he sees it. You got to report all this stuff. So there's all kinds of compliances. But short of somebody not spending the money and stuff, our administrative team has put $5 million on the table, more than that, for the next 5 years. Now, my concern about that is you can get $5 million in grants and competitive grants, and I think the last one, the 3.6 million, it was a nationwide competitive grant process, and less than 100 districts across the United States got the money. But at the end of 5 years, that money gets cut off. And if you don't build efficiencies in that allow you to, it's kind of like the No Child Left Behind. They would give you some money, and then, why are you laughing? Then every year, if you didn't go up by the mandated amount, then all of a sudden you didn't get your funding, and people were used to it, and you hired people and teachers and resources, and then you lost it all. It was counterproductive is what it really was. So what I look for as a board member, I do not want that grant money in the sufficient, in the long-term sustainability of it threatened, because you don't want to get to year 5 and go, hey, that arts program, hey, all these career technical stuff, it's over because we don't have any money, because it got sucked up somewhere else. Now I'm going to go into danger zone, and I'm used to being there, and I need some of it. But here's what threatens things. Financial threats, legal actions, compliance issues when we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. It's like you've got the state board kind of hinting around that you've got big school districts not being accurate in their reporting. That's called a lie where I come from, you know. And then we're comparing ourselves to a bunch of liars. You got a big school district saying, oh, we don't have an attendance problem. Give us all the money. We get more. How much money do we get more if we report 100% versus 80? I mean, it's just sad. I don't want people suing this district, moving in here and thinking we're a bunch of hicks. We're not a bunch of hicks. We're pretty street smart. Smart enough not to get kicked in the head by a horse in our own yard. So don't come in here playing with us looking for a handout. I shouldn't have said that, but I did. Do something about it. We don't want to put ourselves in compliance issues with people being sued. And I'm going to tell you something. I have the child that's probably the least cognitive in the whole district. She's taken care of in the best possible way. You heard me send that Koopman kid home to tell his grandma how great she is. But sped mistakes are very, very costly. And you cannot put those in the budget. If I see a reserve number, say, what's that on hold for? He can't tell me, because we're expecting a bunch of lawsuits. What I have noticed at the state level is some of these really low incidents, meaning they don't happen very often. You've got an issue, you've got a medical issue, you've got a severe emotional distress issue. Sometimes those placements end up being out of state with non-public schools, non-public agencies, and those placements can cost you over $200,000 a year per student, and you've got these excess costs to go with. So I think the state model needs to incorporate, if there's a district that's our size and you have 1 in 100,000 populous case, the state fund for education should not punish the individual district, which sets up people in the district and the administrators that kind of look and go, if it wasn't for that one kid, you don't put our administrators in our budget in that place. So I'm glad to see the State Special Education Commission, which I think somebody around here tracks that pretty closely, is trying to work on that for stuff. So we're getting support in that kind of stuff, but I don't want to see lawsuits at all. And I talked about agenda item 6 in the Department of Education, Cal Department of Education this morning. The minute they talked about charter funding for non-seat-based charters, the Teachers Association stands up and reminds everybody, people robbed $80 million, and the door to that nightmare was open right in this room, if you can believe that or not. So I don't want to see any of that. And I was asked the one question: did we bring in any charter revenue this year? So let me explain that. Revenue means the cost of doing what we do to oversee is X, and the law says that you can charge that up to 1%, one or the other, whichever is less. Did we claim any charter revenue in here where we're taking something from the charter and the kids that go to charter and dump it into our own coffers?
No.
Okay, on the other side of that coin, I don't want encroachment from the charters, something they're doing, where we're spending our money that we can't recoup from them at the expense of our kids who go to my schools in my towns. They're my kids. That's my number one thing. I love it that there's charters. I love it that there's choice, and I respect everything. But you cannot take our kids' money to run your school. Has there been any encroachment on our general fund in this last reporting period that you are aware of?
No.
I hope that includes the last 2 weeks even. So, that said, remember, when you come in here and you take, I tell people at work, I said this before, if you work for me, you do what you're supposed to do. You know what your standards are. When you bring your problem to me to fix, you have lost your right to fix it your way. I will fix it my way, and that way is usually very decisive and quick. So, anything that threatens the $5.5 million that this administrative team has come in here to throw extra on the table, we are not ADA sufficient yet. Now, I'm going to move into what Lester said. Just because I say Lester doesn't mean he agrees with me. He's big enough to throw me around if he doesn't like what I'm saying.
Give him a leg heel up.
A what?
Give him a leg heel up first.
You better. I'm a treacherous old man. Anyway, I like it that we can have fun. But here's my problem. We're not ADA self-sufficient. The team is getting the grants. Costs are going up. We have local floor space fluctuations. Read between the lines. People leave this school. They go to this school. I feel sad for that school, but they're coming to this school. So there's floor space. There's only so much floor space in this town. Okay? And when they leave one school and that floor space is filled up from the outside, if I'm going to tell him to get additional ADA, I need somewhere to put those kids. And I need to know that the buildings are DSA approved. So if I'm looking at this reserve, if I move to that chair next year, which is my plan, God forbid anybody gets in my way, my attention is going to be on, I want classrooms open here so the kids that come here, if they come to Miss Van Orm's level classes, I want them here. If they come here to learn a trade, I want them here. I want additional floor space. We cannot continue to have this game of pretending that, oh, we need more students, but we got nowhere to put them. And I don't like hiring teachers when somebody comes in here and the teachers are, I missed you, Mr. Sparks, tonight. I live on your criticism. But at the end of the day, you cannot expect a teacher to teach 39 kids because you can't make the switch at 19, if you follow me. So our budget needs to be protected. We need additional floor space. And I want the reserve to be looked at as a plan. So if I want a plan, I need somewhere to put the kids. So take what he said about the low-hanging fruit and show me what the plan is. We can't go to the community for a bond, but we do need to take some of these reserves, and one square foot of floor space is better than zero. When I started on this board, this was a nightmare. You had the superintendent. Yeah, you're out there. I don't care. Come on. You had the superintendent sit there, and the person, the financial person, he'd have to get a nod from this dude to say anything. It was just pitiful. We've come so far. Congratulations to staff. Congratulations to teachers. Our numbers are going up, and I'm here to protect the money. Okay, to give you a very practical example, what Lester is involved in parking operations. And in most municipal government entities, you have ratepayer. You might have a ratepayers commission. The idea is that you don't charge more than the value of the service. So let's say it costs you X amount to deliver trash. So you look at all of that, you look at all the trucks, the employees, the leases, the disposal fees, the benefits, all that, and it comes together, and then you say, okay, this is how much we have operationally, and then you break that down to the individual client. That's how your gas bill, your electric bill, and all that's supposed to work. There are ratepayer things. The difference between ratepayer things and the district is LACO gives you a certain amount per student or classified funding or whatever. Now, the problem with charters was you were basically charging these people so you could authorize them when they couldn't get another authorizer. So it's kind of like that world becomes the equivalent of running up a reserve on an enterprise fund where it's just really clear your taxpayers are being overcharged. That's kind of the difference. I want to call to your attention, there's 2 warrant registers here. They represent about a month, and these warrant registers for just this month add up to about $1.2 million. So the district is cycling through $1.2 million. In the event something were to go really wrong, horrendously wrong, I don't even want to give examples, then I'll get blamed. I get blamed for a lot of things. But to Lester's point, when you start looking at what those numbers really mean and you start comparing them to warrant registers, there's not a ton there. And when you take a look at the projects I'm talking about doing, you're not really, what does a soccer field cost you now? 1.2, 1.8? I mean, and so I'm beating on everybody to get floor space, and you're still looking at, you burn up the money that I need for floor space, and you've got no reserve, then you're back down to the never-ending cycle of laying people off, cutting programs. That's where the arts went to. That's where music went to. It's just maintaining the most basic, rudimentary things, and then you have no identity as a district to be unique and offer the great things we're doing. Okay, teleconferencing, in my work environment, the COVID thing went out the window. We're not required anymore to do teleconferencing, and I think LACO hasn't given that direction yet. So I want to make something very clear. Some agencies broadcast their meetings. Some agencies don't broadcast their meetings, and they tape them. Some do neither. Some just make minutes available for a certain period of time. So there is no requirement for this agency to run Zoom meetings and have chat rooms and hang Ken commentary and that kind of thing. The rule doesn't exist. So let's not confuse what happens when this finally goes away. What this is meant for is, in the old days, if I wanted to have participated in a meeting while I was on vacation, I was required to post my hotel room so everybody could come to the meeting. That's what it was all about. This right here provided a way for board members to participate. We couldn't physically get together. So don't confuse this going away with this district's support of broadcasting the meetings live so our constituents can see the meetings. I want everybody to understand what that is. I have not had a discussion. This is not a discussion. Maybe this should be agendized to what our protocol will be after this COVID thing goes away. I personally would enjoy having everybody able to watch the meeting from the comfort of wherever they're at, and then continue also with the district's posting of the meeting on the media channel. So to be clear, what you're saying is these are mandated reports to LACO, and once those reports are submitted to LACO and approved by LACO, and if LACO returns with any recommendations or findings or district compliances that need to be put in order, that can be shared with the board and has to be shared with the board, and within that report out is room for people to discuss whatever their concern might be outside of LACO's approval. That's my understanding.